YouTube, second video to the day. You may have seen this hanging on my wall there for the last couple of weeks. I was waiting for parts for it. So this is a, you can't really read, it's sort of faded. I'm going to get that so you can see it. I'm going to put it right up at there. Give it a chance to focus maybe. Yeah, it's a Hondo Formula 1 series bich copy, and that's a hologram finish, which I don't know if you can get the it's extremely silly. There you go. It kind of reminds me of Football 86 back when I was at primary school. We used to have stickers, football stickers, and the badges for the team logos where it had like a foil backing, which was sort of that kind of vibe. I think this is 1984 they were making these. So it's a set neck. I made a back cover of a record, and I made a cover for the battery as well. That's right, it's active. And these came as standard with Grover tuners. This would be the sort of higher end of Hondos. Hondo, if you look them up, actually I saw a really good article the other day on Hondo, and someone had nailed most of what I think was the history of them. They were a sort of, in the 70s, I think they started in the late 70s, and then they sort of did some Japanese models. I've got a Hondo bass that's Japanese, and then most of the guitars are sort of Korean cheapo. But they've got good ones as well, but they've got some awful ones. I had a Les Paul that was absolutely pish, and a couple of my pals have bought one. I've got one that's one of my biggest YouTube hits, most viewed videos. It's got like sort of stringers in it. A Les Paul is actually pretty good. Korean sort of, I suppose it's probably the equivalent of what you would get as an Epiphone, you know, sort of £400 Epiphone these days. But back then you didn't get Epiphones, so you got Hondos instead. But I had one before that. If you look at my other videos, it was a sort of Les Paul, a flat Les Paul, and it was just everything on it. It wasn't one of those things you go, oh, it's great, you just need to change the pickups or anything like that. It was just a case of everything on it was pish. It was like crap tuners. The neck was, I think the neck was actually plywood on its side. The fingerboard was a sort of painted to look like rosewood type thing. It was plywood body. It was a single coils, you know, that looked like humbucker pickups. Oh god, it was awful. Right, so sorry if you've got one of them. You still see folks selling them, you know, selling them as all Japanese original and stuff like that. And I'm not Korean shite. This is Korean. I think this is made by Samick. I had, if you go back a good bit in my videos, I had a telly, which was actually kind of what got me into all of this. It was a Hondo. It wasn't the Formula 1 series, it was a sort of pointy headstock, blonde telly with a Prince, like, you know, the sort of leopard skin scratch plate. And that was the first guitar I'd ever bought. I think I paid 50 quid for it, something like that, at a cash converter. So it was the first guitar I ever got that I just went, oh my god, you can actually get really good quality guitars for not a lot of money. You know, before that I was buying Schecters and Gibsons and all these things. I didn't realise you could pick up good quality guitars if you are willing to maybe fix up a little bit yourself. I think all that was wrong with that Hondo, I didn't remember, was the nut. It was suddenly off because it had an angled headstock. You know, the strings weren't pulling straight onto the head. They kind of pulled it off the fretboard. So I had to just basically super glue that back on again, and I ended up with a pure amazing telly that I eventually just sold because somebody wanted a Prince guitar. That was, I mean, I doubled my money on it or something like that. Kind of sometimes wish I'd kept that one. But so Hondo in the 80s did some really good stuff if you get the right thing. This has, the pickups in it are some of the loudest pickups I've ever come across. They really are ridiculously loud. Just I kind of wondered if they were DiMarzios, because everyone always tells you Hondos have got DiMarzios, including me. If you go back when I bought that Hondo, because I'd read somewhere that all Hondos had DiMarzios, but there was basically one run of Hondos in, I think it was 1980 or 1981, that had DiMarzio on it. And if you look up the internet, you'll see that advert that says now DiMarzio powered, but it was only the top of the range model that had the DiMarzios in it. And if you look at the serial number, whatever it was an H700 or something like that. It was an H700D was the one with DiMarzios in it. I had the bass version of it, which was the H700, but then you get the H700D, which was the same bass but had a DiMarzio pickup in it. That was kind of, but they're not as good as the Japanese ones if it comes down to it. Yeah, so this hologram finish bich copy, which I'm sure BC Rich weren't very happy about, but they were making their own. think I've got a couple of BC Riches. I've got a Nagoya Japan one, which is very similar to this, apart from I think this is actually more like a normal bitch shape. I'm sure the one I've got is much thinner. I think it's called a skinny bitch. Just I think it's quite funny. And it's pink. I should actually have it hanging on the wall behind me just now to compare the two. So this was round about the same sort of time that BC Richards started doing their import line, because before that BC Richards were only handmade American things made by Mr. Bernie Rico, I believe his name was. They changed it to Rich so it doesn't sound as foreign. Yeah, but I do remember reading somewhere quite funny about whatever NAMM show it was in 1980, whatever, and folk were going, "Oh, I love your new import lines," and they were like, "What import line?" And it was, I don't think it was Hondo, I think it was Aria were producing Mockingbirds and stuff, and they were just like, "What?" Because they were just copies of their guitars. So then they started doing it themselves with the NJ series, which I've got a couple of. Right, on with that. So here we go. This has got volume, tone. This is a dual coil split, so it splits both these into single coils. This is a phase, so it reverses. I can't remember which one it is, which pickup it reverses. So if you're in the middle, you get both pickups on. It makes them fight against each other. And this is a boost, an active circuit. That's what the battery on the back's for. Here. So I had to get some work. I've not all the parts have arrived yet. So I've got a temporary output jack. I've got a metal one coming. It's just taped on just now so I can play the guitar. I'm sick of looking at it and not being able to play it. Yeah, so these are sort of DiMarzio clone pickups. Let's put the rat pedal on, I'll turn it off. If you hear the ridiculousness of the boost. So there you go, bridge pickup, no, that's both pickups, so neck pickup. Overdriving the amp already. That's both of them split. So that's the bridge pickup humbucker. Then bridge single coil. Great high fret access, and it's got 24 frets, but I'll wait till I've got the distortion on, because you can't, using a single coil, it's not the best, and the clean amp's not the best to get the play up high in the fretboard. Yeah, so, and if I put both of them on, this is them out of phase. And then both of them out of phase with, and single coil. Got a little bit of the sort of playing down the end of a phone line sound to it. But that might be something to do with the boost. Right, ready for the boost? I pure shat it first time I hit this, right? So this is in its thinnest, most pathetic sounding. Yep, that's what the boost does. So that's it still. Not phased. Then I put it in the humbucker mode. That's a clean channel in my amp. Yes, I can see how that boost is. It's huge. It's amazing boost circuit. This was all in bits when I got it, so I got it cheap. But there really is sod all in the actual boost circuit. It's like a wee bit of breadboard, and it's got like 2 caps, a wee, I can't remember what they're called, the wee thing looks like the War of the Worlds, the wee 3-pronged thing, and like 5 resistors, and that's the whole thing. So I mean, there must be a way in manufacturing them. You must be able to buy them for about 20 pence worth of bits if you buy bits off eBay. I don't know why you can't buy it. It seems strange. So obviously it's 1984 technology. If I was designing this guitar from scratch, I would probably put an additional volume control on the boost, so it's not quite such a kick in the face when you turn it on. Actually, I'll put it onto the distortion channel on the amp. See what it does to the. So we've got bridge pickup and the distortion channel. So I noticed it didn't really make as much difference when I had the rat pedal on, but it might be doing something else. See, the boost is maybe for when you've got drive on, it doesn't make as much bigger difference. It does make a difference though. My usual rat pedal, just what I'm used to more than else. Went through a wee laney 15 watt, which I'm sorry I keep telling you that, but when I don't mention that, people go, you should always say, forgot to mention what you're playing through. So this is it's the rat pedal, but it's the wee Mosky 12 pound cheapy one, which I found to be so close to being the original rat, which I've also got, that I'll just use that in case I wear mine out. When was the last time I did a loop of Paranoid? Okay. I only used the neck pickup for that, so single coil. days. And the boosts. Try to start at an angle so the light hits on it. Actually, I think with the boost on and the phase switch, it really does make it cut through an awful lot better. It's actually the first time I actually played this guitar properly. It plays really good. Very much is in tune, these strings have never been stretched in. Yeah, so verdict on it is it's quite a lot better than quite a lot of BC Riches that you can get. I've had a few Platinum series. I had a Mockingbird through neck with all the switches and stuff on it. It says light years ahead of it, well, literally. But I mean, no, it's a much better guitar, and that one was like RRP 700 quid or something, so it's not in tune anymore. So I don't know when what would be the equivalent these days. I think you'd be up at the high hundreds anyway. That boost putting off the tuner, perhaps. Well, there you go. So you can't. The tuner doesn't like when you get the boost on. Not that out of tune, considering I've been hammering it for the last 10 minutes. I can actually put this on the BC Rich Junkies Facebook page. You're just going, I know this isn't a BC Rich, remove if there's a problem with it not being a BC Rich, and nobody complained and everyone thought it was quite funny. So I mean, I think just the whole idea of having a hologram finished guitar is nuts. They did, I have seen, when I looked this up, there was a couple on Reverb. There's one that was actually, I think, a through neck rather than a set neck. You know, it had a sort of smoothed heel joints. I'm not sure how the years on them worked. Maybe that, I don't imagine they made them both at the same time, you know, with this finish on it. And I think they were like 400 quid, something like that. So it's not that miles away, apart from the fact it's a Hondo, but Hondo are going up. They are getting more recognition these days because everyone remembers the really crap ones, but I think the really crap ones got binned over the last sort of 10 years. You know, you still see them occasionally, people try to sell them for a couple hundred quid, you know, for the really tinky one. But the sort of medium ones are good. Like the one my pal Craig has, the one that's got the sort of stringers on it, the Les Paul. That's a totally good guitar, comparable with any Korean guitar you get now. You know, your sort of higher end Epiphones and stuff. And the Formula 1 series, which I had one of before, it wasn't this shape. It was kind of shaped a bit like an iPod. It was actually very similar to that. The reason I sold it is because I got that one instead. It was that sort of shape, with a carved top, and it had a Scholler bridge on it, and it was a slightly odd colour. It was a sort of red sunburst, but to me it looked a bit cheapy. It wasn't. I mean, it was a solid wood guitar, and it had the Grover tuners and all that stuff. It was a stunning guitar, but I couldn't justify, well, at the time, I wasn't having multiple guitars of the same that were too similar. It was too similar to the Ibanez, and I like the Ibanez too much. I mean, that's a classier silly finish. This is, I don't know if you could ever describe it as classy. Sort of orange. I don't know. I haven't really said it. It kind of looks orange in the video, and I've seen it advertised as orange. For me, it's a sort of candy apple reddy orange. It's pretty cool anyway. So I'm not sure what the knobs were originally. These are just Les Paul knobs. I think the one I saw in Reverb had knobs that are like, you know, the sort of knob. Well, you can't see it from there, but the sort of Les Paul knobs that got wee notches on them. I think it's them, but you don't get them cheap. They're like sort of £2 or £3 each. Whereas these, the Les Paul ones, you can buy a big bag of them for about £2 or £3. It's just a plastic knob after all. I'm not bothered about buying things that are... Some things are worth spending money on. Things like knobs. Not really, unless you really, really want to. But it's not the sort of thing that if you really don't like the knob, you can just upgrade it. You know, if your guitar's not expensive enough, you can spend £20 on knobs if you really were after it. Yeah, so it's got quite a lot of dinks and dents in it and stuff. It's obviously been rocked. I heard that the guy who bought this bought it on Denmark Street in London, so I hate to think what he paid. It was a pretty poor state when I got it. All the electrics had been ripped out. Well, they'd all been disconnected and these switches were broken, so basically all I did was replace the switches, and I had to rewire the battery connection thing was missing. But there was also a couple of wires that had been put on in the wrong places. But I managed to work my way around it. I was quite pleased. I kind of thought that because there was so little to the active boost circuit, I figured it was going to work. I mean, I found that Honor bass I got a couple of months ago, and the guy found it in his garden 20 years ago, and I stuck a battery in it and the electrics work. So I'm now thinking that active circuits are pretty indestructible. You know what I mean? So this one's 30 years old and still works great if you put the wires onto the right terminals. It was kind of wired up all higgledy-piggledy, you know. If the active system hadn't worked, I would just have made that switch into something else. Maybe I put 2 coil splits in a phase. But I think the boost kind of works well. I believe some of the BC Riches actually might have boosts in them as well. It's for when you're on, you know, the super thin sounds like that, which in normal use is sometimes. I noticed that when I was using the loop pedal there, when you use the sort of thin spanky sounds, they're much quieter. So you have to kind of put them on the loop first, and then sort of, so you can solo over the top of them. It's very difficult to play over the top of things. But with that boost on, lifts it right up. 25 minutes, I'm sorry, I apologise for that. Rock and roll, I'm just enjoying this guitar. So, Hondo Formula 1, rock and roll.